Allow me to start by saying I am most fortunate and privileged to have met a great scholar, Jesuit, Belgian, by the name of Father Robert. Father Robert is a church historian, and he heads one of the most important, one of its kind in the world, libraries in the world, specializing on hagiography, the study of saints. So if you want an expert on the study of saints, then go to Brussels in the library of the Bollandis, which Father Robert is a part of, and they are the expert as far as written documents on saints. I start with that because in this sharing I will rely heavily on their research and on what I have heard from my good friend Father Robert, who's one of his favorite saints. Imagine an expert on saints. One of his favorite saints, he told me, is San Lorenzo Ruiz. In contrast to the first reading, where Job, who lost his property, his houses, his family, who lost everything, did not sin or did not say anything disrespectful to God. In contrast, let us discuss San Lorenzo Ruiz. San Lorenzo Ruiz was accused of a crime he did not do in the Philippines. That's why when he saw an opportunity to join the missionaries going to Japan, he hopped on the boat. In short, sabit lamang siya. He was not a religious. In fact, he has a family. Sumabit lamang siya because he was running away. To cut the story short, once in Japan, they were caught and they were asked to recant, to give up their faith. And since they did not speak Japanese, Nihongo, everything has to be written down and translated during their trial. Because of that, we have documents of what happened there. And when they already knew that they will be persecuted, that they are close to martyrdom, San Lorenzo Ruiz, the poor Filipino sabit in that journey, called one of the interpreters, and he said, "Could you ask, because since I am not a priest, I am not a big missionary, if I give up my faith, could you ask kung pakakawalan nila ako?" In his fear, in his weakness, he asked the interpreter to go and ask those who are judging. And while the interpreter went, nahimasmasan siguro si San Lorenzo Ruiz in his fear, in his weakness, sa kanyang takot. And he felt ashamed. He repented immediately. So much so that when the interpreter came back with the answer that he was asking for, San Lorenzo Ruiz said, "Stop. I repent. I should not have done that in the first place. I will offer my life for my faith. Dear brothers and sisters, we have saints who levitated. We have saints who made a lot of miracles. We have saints who participated in the stigmata, the mysterious wounds of Christ. But today we have a saint who is like us, not just because he is Filipino, but because he was weak, he was human, he had weaknesses, and he can succumb to fear, to weakness, as any human would. But after manifesting weakness, difficulty, limitation, humanity, he emerged to respond to the grace of God. Agad-agad siyang bumangon, and he offered himself for the faith. In the gospel passage, of all in the discussion of who was the greatest, Jesus took a child, someone whom they did not expect, and presented the child as a model for greatness. Following that, immediately, John said, "There is someone who does not belong to us, but who manifests goodness and speaks in your name. We prevented him." But Jesus said, "No. Whoever is not against you is for you." Lorenzo Ruiz is very strongly depicted in the gospel. He was someone whom they did not expect to lead this group of martyrs in the halls of recognition. He was not a missionary. He was not one of them. But by the mysterious grace of God, by the power of God, by the beauty of God's grace, in his weakness, in his anonymity, in his simplicity, we have the first declared Filipino saint and his companions who offered themselves for the faith. San Lorenzo Ruiz is our face. San Lorenzo Ruiz is amongst us. And San Lorenzo Ruiz calls us, despite our weaknesses, despite our limitations, despite difficulties, to emerge, to respond to God's grace. I